Well, hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of your favorite show, Gamer Disclaimer, with Mag and Wade. Of course, I am Mag, and this handsome fella next to me is the one and only Wade. Wade,
Hi,
what's up,
Mag.
man? How are you this week, Wade?
How we doing? Two handsome fellas. Compliments just going all around over here.
Yep, I'm good this week. It's been a busy week, but I'm good. Feeling good, looking good, smelling good, feeling good. So, yep. As you can see over here, there's a new addition to my setup. It is my Fantasy Critics Year 1 Championship Trophy has finally arrived, and it is beautiful. It is a PlayStation Achievement Trophy that has been 3D printed and is going to live at my house. Hopefully for 2 years, but at least for this year, depending on how next year goes, which Wade's a part of the league now, so maybe he'll beat me. We'll see, but I am defending champ. El Campeon. Is that what they say?
Did you want to provide any context as to what fantasy picks is?
Yeah, so basically, last year we picked games that we thought were going to release in 2024, and then we were given points based on their Metacritic rating or their score, and whoever had the most points at the end won, and I did. So, boom. I had 2 Game of the Year games on mine, so that was pretty good. So anyway, Wade, tell us what you've been playing this week. Tell me about it.
I believe I've exclusively. Oh, hold on. Correction. I finished God of War 3. So I was playing through God of War 1, 2, and 3. I had every intention of switching off and playing a Donkey Kong Country game. I played a little bit of Donkey Kong Country 2, and it wasn't really my flavor, but my Donkey Kongs are still my filler games if and when I get frustrated by Elden Ring, which is what I've really been sinking a lot of time into.
Yes.
It was second, or no, this is my third new character that I've made in Elden Ring. With the first 2 characters, I just kind of hit a wall and got frustrated and dropped off. And hopefully this time I'll be able to stick it out and see it through to the end.
I hope you do. I have not played Elden Ring. Maybe someday. I do want to play the new one that's coming out this year. That is a little bit different, but I I have not played Elden Ring. Maybe when it goes on sale, I'll get it. It's on my wish list on Steam. So, games I've been playing this week. Thanks. Since you asked, Wade, I'll tell you about what I've been playing this week. So, I have been playing exclusively League of Legends for the last week. A few friends and I are going to try and participate in the Clash tournament, which is like a tournament that they run every few months within the game. And so a few of us have been really grinding and playing a lot of League, which is fun. I love League. League's a great game. But yeah, and then I've been watching a lot of videos on Celeste after we talked about it last week. I ordered a hat and a scarf. My hat will be here on Monday, and I'm very excited about that. So maybe next week I'll have my Celeste hat on for our episode that we film. But yeah, I just played a lot of League, and it's been good. Also been really busy, though, so I haven't had a ton of time to really play much outside of that. So yeah. So diving unironically into our first topic of today and only topic of the day. So I was talking to Wade about why games. We were looking at this trend of why games in 2024 in general, and just more recently than not, there's been this trend of games that have come out and had a lot of steam out the gate, and then have fallen off, or have been announced and betaed, and people were excited about it, and then they have just died. And so I came into this conversation with something that I had heard. I don't know exactly. I was trying to find where I heard it from, but it was just something on TikTok that I had heard talking about comfort gaming and habitual gaming. And Wade brought in another perspective and view as to maybe why people are not, like, new game franchises and things are having a hard time sticking. And so we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive, shallow dive, whatever you want to call it, dive into that. So why don't we start off, Wade, with your take on it, and I'll let you explain what what you were thinking, and we can discuss that first, and then after we've fleshed that out, we can hop into my thoughts.
Yeah, this is going to be a very surface level take on a wide variety of things that I think. Because the more that I've thought about it after you mentioned this to me this week, about comfort gaming and things like that. I mean, the purpose of gaming is to have fun. So you should want to have fun in all of these things. If you're playing a game that is not fun, bounce off of it, go and do something else, or take a break from gaming entirely and come back to it when you're ready for it. That's what we can say with those kind of things. In regards to games that are coming out these days, and as you described them being unsuccessful or not being able to achieve the same level of success as these other ongoing game franchises, think they are lovingly referred to as GAS, which is an acronym for Games as a Service, where a lot of them are free to play. So there's no money obligation to get in the door for these kind of things. And they're always, well, I guess the two different variables are, the two different versions are, they're always exactly the same, or they're constantly evolving to make new kinds of things to try and chase that audience. Um, I think that one of the reasons why any new game as a service that comes out tends to not have the same success as the old ones is because when they made, like, Fortnite, I don't think that they were specifically trying to make Fortnite. Like, they kind of stumbled their way into the model that worked for them. So everybody else after that has just been trying to create a model that they've been working on and cultivating and doing their best to, keep refreshing. And it also doesn't hurt that they were in first. And unless somebody does it better, and even doing it better might not be enough, because you might add two things that people like about it, and and also add in one additional thing that people don't like about it. And your main competitor of Fortnite, who you are trying to ape and mirror, also could be making improvements off of what you are doing in your game. I feel like my brain is about to explode from the entendres that I've just intertwined in myself of doubling back on what I was trying to say. Let's throw it over to you for a hot minute with your thoughts, Meg.
So yeah, Wade, I think you make some really good points there. I think that you talked about like Fortnite and battle royales in general, right? And battle royales have kind of been like a mainstay in basically in modern gaming. I'd say within the last 5 to 7 years. Fortnite came out 2017, right before Harrison was born in January of 2018. But Fortnite's constantly evolving, and I think that's probably why it stayed relevant. But Fortnite wasn't the first battle royale game, right? H1Z1 was kind of one of the first ones to come around, and then of course PUBG, which it still has a pretty solid following, and people are still playing it. But there's been others that have since come and gone. Like Warzone doesn't have a ton of people on it now, but Warzone's really popular, and of course Apex Legends drops. That's a really fun game out of nowhere, but player count for that game has been starting to drop, which is really interesting and kind of I think ties into what we're talking about today. But yeah, it's like it's just like any business, right? You have to keep evolving in order to stay relevant. So those are my thoughts on what you had to say, Wade.
Very good. Other games that you can add to that list, I imagine that, well, I don't know. Aside from your Kings of the Castle, and I feel like Warzone is still doing fine. I don't know, like, compared to what, to itself, like, it's still the top selling, like, granted Warzone is free, but I mean Call of Duty is always the top selling game every year that it comes out, like people are always picking these things up. It's bananas. But like, I know that I spent a lot of time of the games that come out, because a lot of them are at the price point of free. I like to pop in and check them out, but then just bounce when I'm done. And I think that there's just too much bouncing going on. Like both you and I, granted it wasn't free at that time, spent a tremendous amount of time in Fall Guys. We played a lot of Fall Guys.
Yep.
I put a lot of time into Multiverses before that got shut down. I put a fair amount of time into X Defiant before that got shut down. COD Killer X Defiant,
Yes.
all those lovely things. And I don't know if now is a good time to mention Meg, but I've never played Fortnite.
Wow. That's incredible.
How have I avoided it for so long? It's been installed on numerous machines that are in my house because occasionally my nephew comes into the area and then immediately it's just Fortnite is on there and that's what he's doing now. So
Interesting. Wow. Well, I mean, that's very surprising, but
it was too intimidating for me to try and learn how to build on controller.
yeah.
And then when no build came, you thought that would have been the excellent entryway point. But then it's just there's so many people who have so much better map knowledge than I have had. And granted, there are changes to the map and whatnot, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not my speed. I personally prefer to dive into my backlog of games. When Meg brought this topic up, where he's like, games these days they just can't succeed, and I'm like, well, you're in luck because there are a whole plethora of games that did succeed that still exist, and
Yeah.
you can go back and play to this day. A lot of single player experiences more so than multiplayer ones. Obviously, I cannot recapture the glory that was getting off of work and going and playing Halo Reach until we decided that it was time to be done playing Halo Reach for the night. Like that was just the game that I played until it was time to be done gaming. I didn't, put in 2 matches of Reach and then go and play something else. That's what we're doing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like, you'd mentioned the backlog, like I think that might be playing into part of the issue with new games having a hard time succeeding is like, you know, you have a ton of games that you want to play and you haven't had time to play, and so it's like, well, how can I take on a new game and I have all these other games that I've probably spent money on or have wanted to try for longer, how can this game, what justifies this game like jumping the line, right, in terms of me trying out new games and things like that. And so I mean I have a huge backlog of games that I have not got to and probably never will get to. But I like to try new games. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of hopping and jumping that's taking place when it comes to
Or is
that.
it really adding something to the backlog if it's a free game that you're playing?
I mean that's true, right? Well, I've
Yeah.
paid for a lot of games, but I'm on this indie game kick. So let me hop into my take on this and what I had learned about. So I had X Defiant on here, but games that really made me think of this and inspired this is like Helldivers 2. I played it, loved it, and then just quit playing it. And Pal World had a huge
Oh,
start.
oh. Can you throw to me after each of these, Meg? Because I might have thoughts on each of them, and I don't want to have to double back to all of them. And you've
Okay,
got notes.
I do have
All right.
notes. Okay,
So
Helldivers 2.
Helldivers 2. Again, I have not played Helldivers 2, but I feel like it is in the same category of Apex and Warzone, where it has a healthy enough population, and I imagine that the dedicated players are still playing it and having a grand old time. But it probably doesn't, and I guess I don't know how Helldivers is structured, whether it has like seasons or they get like that resurgence of people that kind of come back. I feel like I can agree with you that it has fallen far from the pinnacle that it once achieved, but was it ever realistic that it was going to be able to maintain that level of success indefinitely?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not sure, right? I just know, like, I played it for a while. It had a really bad launch, which turned a lot of people sour on it for sure. And that was something that an article I read just regarding this topic talked about. But another game is like Pal World, right? So Pal World came out blazing hot, right? And then, like, even the developers themselves have said, oh, hey, like, we don't expect people to just be playing this game and this game exclusively, right? But it's interesting to see a game like Pal World, which had a lot of players and now is like dropped significantly as well, right?
So the difference, I think, in opinions, where you and I both see the same thing, but we look at it differently, is what it comes down to. Where I see it as it now has entered into its this is a good game with likely not necessarily thriving and growing community, but a strong community of people that are still playing it. and loving it, if that is the game that they want to be playing. But yeah, you're 100% correct that it has dropped off from the high heights that it achieved around that launch. Like, I think people were kind of maybe trying to get in the door because they thought that Nintendo was going to just like shut them down and this game wasn't going to exist anymore for people to
Yeah.
play. If Nintendo got litigious, as it's prone to do with these kind of situations.
Yeah, and I never played Pal World, but I have friends that did and really enjoyed it. But two other games I had X Defiant and Concord, right? Games that basically either launched or had like came out and then died, like don't exist anymore, right? And had hype and things like that. And then I also threw like Lego Fortnite in there, and where this kind of comes from is like this is kind of the thing with like Marvel Rivals too, and I'm curious to see if Marvel Rivals is gonna have staying power and what's gonna happen with it. But a lot of streamers, like I keep up with a lot of like the top streamers and things like that, they are always very willing to try a game out, right? But then they always fall back to the game that they're comfortable on, which will segue into my next point after you tell me your thoughts on X Defiant, Concord, and even Lego Fortnite. But yes, so I just throw those in there as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, Concord and X Defiant, they're certainly in a different category from trying to compare them to Pal World or Helldivers 2, in that they're either dead or about to be dead. Like that's just how it is, like completely gone. Um, Concord is a fascinating case study all on its own. That I think that it was a good game that because it didn't find the player base and they saw no path forward, they just decided to not even try and go to a free to play route. Like they were charging $40 for this game and they sold like less than 1 million copies out the gate. And for a game like that, it was never going to be able to recoup its losses. Um, Goes into a whole other discussion about how expensive it is to make games these days and the risks that they are willing to take and the high heights that these games have to achieve
Yeah.
to be considered successful, compared to a lot of the old games on my backlog or something like that, where it's like this game sold 1 million copies back in 1996 and it's like, wow, that's crazy, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
um, what was the other one that you mentioned in there
I just talked
besides?
about like Lego
Oh, Lego
Fortnite.
Fort. I mean, this Lego Fortnite. I don't know if streamers are the target audience for Lego Fortnite. Lego Fortnite is just them trying to get a little bit of Roblox's lunch. Is that a valid point? Like,
Yeah.
not that Fortnite isn't already enough of a gateway into Fortnite at any age.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to get them hooked in that ecosystem at an even younger age, right?
Yeah. For sure. Um, but yeah, so where all this initiate or this came up though in my head, and why this conversation topic is what we chose for this week, at least from my take, was I saw this person talking about this thing called habitual gaming, and I thought it was super fascinating. And so basically, habitual gaming is this idea that like you will often try other games, but because you have formed habits playing other like the games that you play the most, you are always prone to go back to those games and play them habitually. And it takes a really, really great game or experience or thing to break you of the habit of playing a game that you have spent a ton of time on. And so I think that's why like the juggernauts in the industry, exist and are able to continue to keep their bases. So like myself personally, like I have like, and this is more so live action games I'd say than like single player adventure games and things like that. But I always fall back to League of Legends and like Fortnite for like more recently. But for a little while it was Overwatch, and I would always try these other games and I'd try new things, right? But then after a little while, I'd kind of like get the itch to like, well, I want to play the game that I've spent the most time playing, and that's like a comfort game or habitual game for me. And so like obviously Wade, I know that you spent hours and hours and hours in Destiny and Destiny 2, right? And then it was Remnant 2 and other games like that where you have probably gone off and tried other things, but see yourself often coming back to like your true north compass of like, well, these are like the one or two games that I have like that I'm always going to come back to, right? But interestingly enough, and I'm not spoiling any of this, you don't play any of those games anymore. So I'm curious as to what may have broke that habit and that cycle for you, considering like you have probably spent 10,000 hours on Destiny and things like that. So that's my thoughts. Dissect it. What do you think about all that?
I was ready to just throw one statement at you and then like end the entire conversation on a cliffhanger like Twilight Zone ending. And it was when you were talking about it's like all of these gaming habits that we've established, habitual gaming. And I just wanted to say, you think that you are the one that decided that you were going to be comfortable and habitual with this gaming? It was decided for you by the designers of the game. They designed it in a way so that it will be your comfort food, your game that you want to come back to all of the time. I mean, like even Halo Reach, again, second Halo Reach mention in a matter of minutes on these things, had daily and weekly challenges in it, which was the precursor to the Battle Pass and everything else that you see now these days. So every time that I was playing Halo Reach, I was working towards getting a new armor set or a new, I think it was like one of the last things that I unlocked was like Pestilence, which had like a little stink cloud around you as you were navigating around the arena. Another one like gave you like lightning or something like that.
Yeah.
So that same feeling of dedication that I put into a game like Halo Reach, now these days, it's, well, you can spend more money and you'll be able to get all of these things, get that gratification that you're looking for. But I digress. Quitting Destiny 2 is like one of the things that I'm the most proud of doing on this. In my video gaming life, I'm so happy that I don't play Destiny 2 anymore. Like, I don't even know how I would get back into it again if that was the case. Like, it's just so far removed. Like, I could boot up the Master Chief Collection and eventually shake the rust off, but good lord, like Destiny, because it's just a living, breathing game, like I doubt that I would be able to get back into it again. But yeah, you're 100% correct, is that I don't know if I have comfort games in the same level that you do. I'd like for Balatro to become my comfort game that I kind of keep going back to just, play a little bit here and there. But I think eventually I'll even reach a point with Balatro where I'm like, I'm done with it. I can bounce off of this thing. Like I mentioned at the top of the call, I just got an itch and a wild hair to play through all of the God of War games because I played through the ones on the PS4 and PS5 and realized I'd never played the PS2 and PS3 ones. So I just, checked those out, mainlined them straight beginning to end, and got after those things. I've been playing Elden Ring, and there are a lot of people who think that Elden Ring is their comfort game, even though there are multiplayer elements to it, but it's like a single player story for these kind of things. And in bringing everything around full circle from you talking about how you were excited for Elden Ring Night Rain when it comes out, Elden Ring Night Rain looks like it's trying to take on some of those tactics of not necessarily your battle royales, but it's like the circle is closing. There's a storm, you've got to be moving to different parts of the map. Like it's meant to be fast paced, one more run, those kind of things. Granted, Elden Ring, every time after you die, you can always easily just say, one more death.
One more try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think too, like, because a lot of times it's like based on what your friends are playing, right? Like if your friends are playing, like I have a group of friends that plays Fortnite, so it's like an easy game to fall back to. Granted, I took 3 years off of playing Fortnite and didn't play it. And then in that time I played League. But the thing that's interesting with League is that there are battle passes now in League, but I've only purchased like one total because there was a skin I wanted at the end of it. But like I just play that game to play it. Like, even if I don't have friends on, I'm just like, I'll just play a game of League. And, like, after we get off this call, I'm, like, thinking, like, I'll probably just play a game of League, right? And it's weird because there's not weekly challenges. There's not, I have every character unlocked. There's skins you can get, but you have to pay money for them. But like I don't know, like I just enjoy the game, and there's a lot to explore. I mean, there's 160 characters, and so every day you can learn something new about one of them. But it's just so interesting, and maybe like I'm looking at this in through like the streamer lens a little bit more, or I do stream. But it's just so interesting to always see like these streamers that are like bigger streamers will often go try games out, and then it's interesting because like maybe like it's like an example is like Team the Tatman right now. Like he's Warzone forever, played Overwatch. That's kind of how he got famous. He was top 500, and he is like addicted to Marvel Rivals. And he's like, unless something else comes out that's better than this is the only game I'm playing for the foreseeable future, right? And then like Overwatch, he did an ad for them yesterday and played Overwatch for them. But it's like interesting to see how like that game has now kind of become like his comfort game and like the only game that he wants to play. But you think back to like in the Halo days, right? You're talking about Halo and things like that. Like, why is that the only game that we played? Like, why was that the game? I mean, maybe as friends, but why? Like, why was that the game that was just like? Because it was for me too. I mean, it was like every day I'm going home after school, I'm playing Halo.
I think that there's two different answers. The reason that we played Halo every day was because that's what our friends were playing. And the reason that Tim the Tatman is playing Marvel Rivals is because people are watching him play Marvel Rivals.
Okay.
And he went and played Halo, Reach, 3 times the charm. The audience might not be there. That's that streamer mentality of, yeah, they're gonna play whatever keeps that view count high.
Yeah. So cycling or
It
circling.
also brings up. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I just was going to say that I wonder how much of the success or failure of games that come out today are them trying to cater to a streamer's audience, but maybe that's a whole other conversation for another day.
No, I mean I was thinking
We strayed so far from our original points in this show.
But I was thinking about that, like, because I'm looking back down and I'm like, okay, so like, maybe our version of success per se might be different. Like we are thinking like, oh, like there are these pillar games like your Fortnites and your Warzones and Call of Duties and things like that that are like the pillars, and we're kind of expecting every new game to be like a pillar game, when in reality, like every game doesn't have to be a pillar game, right? It can just like Helldivers or like Pal World. It's like they had a huge spike in the beginning, right? And now they've settled much lower than that peak, right? But like maybe to them success is 30,000 concurrent players instead of 100,000, right? And so whereas like success for a game like Fortnite is like looks a lot different than a game like Pal World or like Helldivers.
Do you think that GTA 6 will be successful? Hot take. Give me your opinion.
I don't. I think so, because there are so many people that love it and dedicated. I mean, that's like an evergreen game for, like 3 consoles. People are still playing GTA 5. So I think that there's a dedicated enough fan base that have habitually gamed on GTA 5 for so long that when GTA 6 come out, it'll just be a natural transition. Me personally, I have no interest in the game. Like, I'm not going to be buying it, but I think it will be wildly successful. But I think it has the history and the staying power of its previous games, that it's almost too big to fail. Maybe.
Well, Meg, I think that you and I lead very similar lives, but very different lives when it comes to these things. And we have unique and interesting opinions about these topics that you bring to the table. And I always appreciate having a candid discussion with you about whatever may come across the table. But you know what I like even more than having a candid discussion with you is talking about my achievement of the week.
Yes.
Do you see that segue, Meg?
It's beautiful. Wow.
I think we're going to handle it. The segue is not from Halo Reach. However, when this game came out, it did add some additional maps into Halo Reach. It's from Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary.
Woo!
When Halo 1 first came out, it was on the original Xbox where there were no achievements. So I got a game that I was very familiar with that now had a fresh set of achievements. And I was looking at it, and I think I beat the whole game on Legendary within the first like 3 days of having it or something like that. Like blew through like crazy. But I wanted to highlight one achievement called How Pedestrian for completing the level Halo on any difficulty without entering a vehicle. So that was
Uh-huh.
the second level in Halo, after the Pillar of Autumn,
Yep.
where the first thing you did after you crash land on Halo is get into Warthog and just let one of the Marines gun down everybody in sight. But this achievement asks you to stop and smell the roses, appreciate the finer things. A
Interesting.
slow walk across a giant ring.
Interesting. So you didn't get in the Warthog. You just took it all in.
Nope. I took it in and earned the How Pedestrian achievement.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that amazing achievement of the week, Wade. And from a great game franchise, Lordy Day, I hope the next one that comes out is good because I miss it with all my heart. I want it back. I want Halo back. Please. Give us a good Halo, please. Anyway, song of the week this week is from a game that I will never play in my life, but I have heard this song through streams of listening to video game music, and it's awesome. It is from the game Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, and the song is called Meridian Dance, and it is I believe it's like the final boss or the boss before the final boss's battle music, which I'm learning. Even though like JRPGs are not my game type whatsoever, there are some banger tunes in JRPGs and RPGs, especially the battle music. And so, yeah, we're gonna listen to that as we finish the episode off. But yeah,
Oh, before we throw to that, Meg, I have to share one thing as we're fading out.
okay,
I realized that the angle that I have been standing at for the duration of this video is not showing what my shirt is. So I'm going to slowly back up, and I want you to try and figure out what my shirt is. And I'm going to try and stop at a very opportune angle. So here we go.
okay. Are you wanting me to or the chat or the people? Well, I saw it earlier. There he is. He is.
But when it's like this, it looks like a butt.
I see Warp Star, but right up
Do you see the
here,
butt? Do you see the
there's
butt, Meg?
there is that little butt. Yes, I see the butt, but that's an arm. That's not a butt.
Turbo!
It's Kirby.
Hey, yo!
We love Kirby. It does look like a butt though. That's funny.
Yeah, I was on a Zoom call with some friends, and I was wearing a shirt, and they were like, "Why does Wade have a butt on his shirt?"
And they're like, that's not a butt. That's Kirby. Kirby has no butt. He's round. Well,
Kirby has no pronouns apparently. I'm not trying to go woke on you. What is Kirby? Kirby
Kirby's.
swallows a princess. He's a lady.
Yep.
Kirby
Kirby.
swallows Mario. He's got a mustache. He's a dude.
Kirby is fluid.
Mm.
Kirby eats a sword. It's a
His,
sword.
his pronouns are slice and dice.
Slice and dice. Oh man. Wade, send us off here. Get us out of this episode.
If you've made it this long, thanks for sticking around. This is always a highlight of my week to get to record with Meg and have these wonderful conversations. If you haven't checked out any of the back catalog, I would recommend the Nintendo Switch episode. That's a personal favorite of mine that I like a whole lot. And that's it. This has been Gamer Disclaimer with Meg and Wade, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.